Hey everyone, in this episode, I just wanted to give you some ideas to support you and your family right now. If you are dealing with children at home and you're trying to find some ways to keep them engaged in learning, possibly follow some curriculum, we're recording this right now in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. And my sons are home, all of their friends are home. A lot of my colleagues are struggling with trying to find work for their children to do while they work from home. So I thought today we would give you some ideas from someone who has been homeschooling her 4 children, ranging from age 4 till age 11 for the last 11 years. So Morgan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I think the first place to start might be, what are some rhythms and routines that families can adopt right now to give their day some kind of structure and to integrate some kind of learning in their day-to-day life with their kids?
I think the first step in that is to really brainstorm what your values and ideas are for your family. My husband and I do this on a regular basis. We'll have meetings to discuss the different qualities that we would like our children to possess, the ones that we would like to model, and to have our family work together to thrive in. So some of those things, for example, would be cooperation and teamwork, gratitude, making contributions, like being involved in how the family runs and making decisions. So that would, I think, is the first step, is just discovering what those values are, and then include the children into how they want it to work as a family, because all kids learn differently. They have different attention spans, different interests. So with each child, we'll discuss what the important things are. And that's where we start. So the education, the academics, it fits in there. It really does. You'll find that there's a lot of learning that happens just with the natural flow of daily life. Mm-hmm. But some of the values that we really want to instill are things like self-care, things like gratitude, things like family time, things like appreciating nature, growing your own garden, learning to take care of each other, take care of the animals, take care of yourself. So those are the big things that we start with. And so every morning, after we do our routine of self-care, family works together to have breakfast, to prepare, and to clean up. And then from there, as long as they know that those values are in place, that we've scheduled those things in first, whether it's a family project or family reading time, then they can fill in the rest of the time with their own things that they're interested. If it's math, if it's science, if it's nature, then they get the time to explore that on their own.
And then do you and your husband have curriculum, like worksheets, like teaching materials or online resources that you use to teach them that? Or are you just relying on their own self-directed learning?
So I think it's just like, I've heard this analogy so many times and I love it. It's just like growing a plant. You want to make sure that the environment is right. You want to make sure that the soil is full of nutrients, that it's getting plenty of water and plenty of sunshine. So that, to me, those are the things that we have accessible for our children. So we have a fabulous collection of books. We have, a full kitchen of science experiments. There's a lot of things that are at their disposal. We provide those things, but they provide the curiosity. They provide they lead with their interests. And so there are times where there's worksheets, but it's not as important as I think that some people feel like it is, because you have to ask yourself too, how do you feel about sitting down with worksheets? Some people love it, not everybody does, and that's just getting to know your own children and knowing your own self. And learning is a lot more to do with how the children feel about it than it does with actually sitting down and doing the work.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things there that I want to address. One is what's right for your family might not be right for another family. We could get into a huge discussion on public school, private school, homeschooling, Montessori, forest school. I think what's most important is that parents take some time to think about what you just said, like what are the values? What are the goals that you have for your children? And then can you create an environment that fosters that? The other thing is, I think sometimes you forget the importance and the value of play for children, especially for young children, and how much discovery, problem solving, emotional development they get from building with blocks or from playing a board game with their siblings. I mean, there's a lot of social, cognitive, and emotional development that happens in those environments. And so we're talking about building people. It's so much more than just how well they can read or write or what their math skills are like.
Right. Yep. There's a lot of problem solving that happens when for me, for example, when I get out of their way,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of problem solving that happens on, that they initiate. And it really is a beautiful thing. Like this morning, my two youngest, they were sitting down. I thought something was wrong because they were just sitting there sort of melancholy at the table. And they're discussing things. I said, "Are you guys, did something happen?" They said, "No, we're just discussing what our plans are for the day." And the youngest one was like, "I think we should play Paw Patrol." And the older one said, "Oh, I think we should play chess." And they said, "Okay, well, first we'll play Paw Patrol, then we'll play chess, then we'll play Pirates." And it was sort of back and forth. And they made this plan for the day. I had nothing to do with it.
Right. And we even think of skill sets involved in that. I mean, there they are negotiating. They're going through play and make-believe and imagination and creativity. And then they're also going into something like analytical, like chess with strategies. And that's a really beautiful thing. So for you guys, I mean, a challenge that a lot of parents are dealing with right now, and I think probably all the time, right? Let's face it, is that balance between being available and present for your children and having some time as a woman, as a mom, as a dad to, have some self-care for you. And so your children are home all day long,
Yes.
in and around you and your husband. Is there any tips that you have for parents about trying to still take care of yourself? Because parenting is 24/7. I get that, but it's even more 24/7 when your children are home with you and they're not out of the house for 6 hours a day.
You're right. And so that's why even my kids know that self-care is one of our biggest rocks that we put in first, in our schedule. So the schedule can look different from day to day, but typically I do like to get up before the kids get up and invest in myself in that time. And if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, there are sleepless nights or whatnot, then the children know too that the day will shift to include those things that got missed out in the morning. So it might be that they see mom working out in the living room next to them playing their Lego instead of, me having it done before their day begins.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care is important for them too, and quiet time. After lunch every single day, the kids know that they are going to get half an hour, sometimes a full hour of designated quiet time where they sit with a book or sit with an activity that keeps their hands busy but their mouth quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take that time too. I take that quiet time for myself or reading or what I need to do. So that's important.
Yeah, and I think having known your family and watched your children grow up over the last 5 years, they're wonderful children, And I think sometimes the criticism that, it's probably a myth about kids who are not in school is that maybe they're missing out socially or they're missing out on development in some skills. And again, without getting into the pros and cons of unschooling, homeschooling, public school, private school, all that stuff, I will definitely say that your kids are inquisitive, they're conversational, they're emotionally empathetic, like they have a lot of great life skills as human beings. And so there's certainly a lot that you guys are doing right to create that in the environment that you're working in.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I don't really feel that social skills are developed within the same age category or same gender or whatever. That we have groups of friends. Obviously, we're not getting together with them now, other than FaceTime. They do FaceTime chat. But when the three families get together, there's like 11 children between us, and the age ranges from 12, almost 13, down to 2. And there is no separation or segregation of age within that. The olders play with the youngers and vice versa. There's a mix right in the middle. And it's really beautiful to see. My kids love hanging out with adults. They love hanging out with even, grandparents and aunts and uncles. So social isn't just with somebody else their own age. It has to do with just, they'll chat up the lady at the grocery store.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they learn that, through experience in our parents. I take my kids when they were younger, I took them everywhere with me. If I needed to grab a coffee and read the paper, they were there with me at the cafe and they were having conversations or observing me having conversations. And slowly they grew up with a community of people around them too. So if we were to just sort of wrap things up here, what I'm taking from, your rhythms and the tips for parents here today are, first, like, come up with your own, get really clear on your values as a family and what's most important to you. Create some daily rituals or rhythms that work for your family, and then give your children to be participants in the learning experience.
I think that's a
Anything
really
else to add there?
Yeah, I think that when you involve them in how they structure their day and what's important for them to learn, that they start to own that, and a lot more will come from their learning experience when they feel like they own it and they're not just being told what to do. So
Mhm.
I think that those things are important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your time. And folks, if you want to learn more, there are lots of resources out there. Actually, we didn't talk about that. Are there any specific, like, online platforms, books that you've really worked with, any resources you want to share with parents right now that they can go and look for more information?
Yeah, there are really, there is just a world of information out there for finding things, for activities for kids to do. Any of the Montessori tools are great for the younger ones, and you can find a lot of ideas on Pinterest or Instagram. But I'm gonna say, like, our main thing that we focus on as a family is reading together. So finding really great books, and you can get those. I know you can't go to the library right now, but Overdrive or Libby is an app where you can actually rent books digitally from the library. LibriVox is a really great app for audiobooks, and those are all free. Audible right now is offering free books for like kids books. So those are all great ideas. Art lessons online are a lot of fun. So there's YouTube channels, I think, like the Kids Art Hub and Art Venture is, things that you can do together as a family. Books for parents to read about education. There's some really, really great ones, but it can be a lot to take in. So I think just focusing too on your own education, having the kids see you reading a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, but doing something for yourself, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend necessarily a certain type of curriculum, because I think that that's for the parent to know their child and know how they thrive. But there are some really fabulous, lots of resources out there. If you know your child and know what they're into, you can find whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, and it's just start being inquisitive and curious yourself. Actually, I think that's my mug today. Be curious.
Yes.
And I think, it just brings to my attention as well the power of connecting with other families, right? And families who know your children, and sharing resources that way. Other parents can often support each other. If you have similar values, they may have something great that they're watching with their children, reading with their children, and you can swap books. And we have a huge library here in the practice. But there's lots of ways that you can share and collaborate with other people in your community that is also going to foster that atmosphere of sharing and collaboration contributions. So yeah, so great tips. I hope this is helpful for you, everyone. If you have any other questions, be sure to just post a question rather, or get in touch with us, send us an email or on our message. And have an awesome rest of your day, Morgan. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks. Take care.